visual aid guy. I'm the queen of not playing by the rules on visual aids. I'm not making you guys any PowerPoints. Don't worry, I'm not that good at PowerPoints. You wouldn't be that charmed. Next one of us. Cool. All right, so when I walk into our classroom, I sit down at a desk that's not exactly well suited for me. And that's because of one thing. I'm left-handed. So while you guys get to rest your elbow on this cushy little thing designed for you and write across a page with no fear of smearing the ink, I kind of awkwardly hang my elbow out into the air and immediately proceed to smudge every pen I ever use. And thank you for feeling bad for me. That's super kind of you, because I was about to say, this may not register to you guys if I sit down. You're not going to care. As the biggest problem ever, right? Left-handed people. I'm not going to pretend that we're the most marginalized group to exist. But we do live in a right-handed world. And the fact that we live in a world that is designed for a majority is indicative of a problem, right? It indicates that we lack creativity, and the designs that we make, we don't create a world that is designed to be accessible for everyone. We lean into what's easier, and we make things simpler for ourselves. And poor me, I feel sorry for myself because I'm left-handed. And I see you nodding, so I know there's at least one other person with me, and the rest of you righties are going to feel sorry for us, I promise. So we're going to look back at the history of left-handedness, kind of what that looks like, why it indicates a problem, and what we can do about it, right? So left-handedness as a concept dates back super far. In fact, an archaeologist, Natalie Uomini, whose last name I'm definitely botching, says that she thinks it might date back as far as the Neanderthals. And as far back as we can date it, we actually see a preference for right-handedness. So unfortunately, that's always been a thing. More people are right-handed, it's whatever. And we can look back at that and know that that's always been a thing. But as well as the fact that we can trace that right-handedness was more prominent, we can also trace that left-handedness is something that's had really negative associations historically. You don't have to look any further than the word left itself to understand that there is a history of linking it with bad stuff. The word left comes from the same Latin word that the word sinister comes from. So evil and left are literally linked in word usage, so that's like super flattering. I dig that for sure. But because of that, there's always been sort of a superstitious negative association with left-handed people, right? Like, oh my gosh, the devil himself is left-handed. I'm like, cool, that's awesome. So there's always just been these negative associations that are mostly rooted in superstition, but unfortunately in earlier time periods, specifically in the 19th century, researchers started just saying that they had found information that actually backed this theory that left-handed people were evil. So there was this guy, he was Italian, so that explains it. No, just kidding. There's this guy named Cesare Lombroso. I don't feel bad for botching his name because he's real mean to lefties. And he said that he had done research that indicated that left-handed people were linked with pathological behavior, criminality, savagery, which I, for one, find to be a really flattering evaluation of us. And so the superstition turned into a genuine belief that people held, and because of that, we see a world that's catered to right-handed people, right? You see this in design all the time. You ever use a knife and notice that it favors right-handed people, or ever use scissors and realize that those are a little better designed for you? Guitars, I play guitar, it took me freaking forever to find a left-handed one, and one of the funniest examples I saw, which I just thought was hysterical. So when you shoot a gun right-handed, this one's for you, bud. When you shoot a gun right-handed and it has a shell, it disposes the shell away from your face. You don't get smacked in the face with a shell. If you're a lefty using a right-handed gun that disposes a shell, you're about to get smacked in the face with a shell casing when it comes up. So guys, these are the difficulties I live with. It's tough to be me. But on top of that, there are very real implications to this thing that has kind of more joking roots of oh my gosh, I'm inconvenienced by little things. There's real issues too. So in neuropsychological research, they used to never include left-handed people because handedness is actually linked to your brain, and so it was just one more factor that they had to account for. So for a very long time, all research in neuropsychology was just using right-handed people. And because of that, certain things were designed with an understanding of the brain only rooted in right-handedness. So in 2018, this guy who was a Columbia professor was doing research on treating patients with depression, and he found that the left side of your brain holds certain emotions that are engaging with the world, and that so that's happiness and stuff, and then you have avoidance emotions on the right side of your brain. Well, he was looking at old research to find this, and he included left-handed people in his study and figured out for left-handed people, your brain's actually flipped. It's the opposite way where you store emotions. So they had been using electric and magnetic stimulation in people's brains to help lower their symptoms of depression. But if you use the right-handed research, you stimulated the opposite side of a left-handed person's brain, and you could actually risk making their depression worse. So I know no one feels that bad for me that my arm kind of awkwardly has to hang off into space, but there are very real implications to the fact, what just happened, that we just readily accept that our world is designed for right-handed people. And it's this thing called generalized accessibility that we should be striving for. We should be striving for a world in which we use innovation and progress to create a world that is accessible and usable by all people. And that's why you should pity me and my fellow left-handed people. Thank you. Camera.
Great.
Oh, thanks, man.
You do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself around. That's what it's all about.
Right arm.
You put